Hello and welcome to Access Sportsnet. Lakers, driven by your Southern California Honda dealers. I'm Chris McGee, D-Fish. Happy birthday, big game,
Hey.
James, where this is not what I had in mind. Mike Bresnahan, Allie Clifton will join us. We got Mike Trudell handling the post-game interviews. Lakers get blown out at home by the Pelicans, who are currently the 11th seed. 23 turnovers for 25 points. The 23 turnovers ties a season high. 26 fast break points for the Pelicans. Big game, James. 7 of 34 for 20% from three.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game where, I mean, I'm sure we'll go over all the stats and all the what they didn't do statistically. When I look at it, I look at one thing. I don't look at plus minus too much. But when I look at it, it kind of tells you the mentality of this team and kind of just where they are mentally, and they can't shake it. It's like a virus or something. I look at the Pelicans, they were all plus 20-something. And the Lakers, I looked at their plus minus, and they're all in the negative. Even Reeves, who never is in the negative. It just goes to show you that there's something going on in this team that they cannot shake, or they're not willing to shake it. Right now, they're embarrassed. They're not where they're supposed to be. They see a steady climb they got to make. They got to really do the impossible right now. And I just don't see the mentality to fight for it. And, you know, hopefully, you know, they do have it, but I don't see it on the court.
I don't know if
On the court.
I don't know if it can be said any better.
Yeah.
Differently, maybe. For sure. I think, you know, definitely I think a group that has been challenged to really connect and be on a string as a group all season, right? The injuries, the new roster, a lot of reasons or statements made as to why the team hasn't been able to be more consistent, perform better. But going into All-Star break, you would hope that a little time away, recharge the batteries. Okay, let's come out of the break and, you know, really start to put the urgency into every possession. And that's a struggle right now. Like, once the game starts to separate a little bit, it's tough, you know, for the Lakers to keep climbing that mountain. Showed it a little bit in the Clippers game, but just wasn't there tonight. I mean, it was like the Pelicans were far superior to the Lakers, and we don't believe that.
Yeah.
Based on the roster and the personnel, but that's what it looked like tonight. And that's more mental than physical. Like, there's plenty of talent in the Lakers locker room to win games in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
So there's something mentally, emotionally, psychologically that, like James is saying, that's just, it's heavy, you know, to have to figure out what they're going to have to figure out in front of the whole world. But that's what we signed up for.
We get paid to do this for a living, so we live it. We're always in it. But like the fans, we also love Laker basketball, and we talk about it all the time. I want to take you back to before the All-Star break. You know, when we're here at the newsroom, we're getting ready for our shows. You know, we're out there talking about the schedule and where we're going to land and all that stuff with our bosses and everyone else. And, you know, we talked about the first few games, Brez, out of the All-Star break, setting the tone.
Yep.
And what kind of move this team could make. When you watch these first two games, especially tonight, what kind of tone is that?
You know, for the first time, I'm actually wondering, will this team play beyond April 10th? Will they make at least the play-in tournament? They're only 2.5 games up on New Orleans now, in 9th place. Portland also right there, about 2.5 games behind the Lakers. San Antonio right behind them. You know, the Lakers have to kind of show that they want to at least be in the play-in game, because right now, even that is in doubt. They still play the Pelicans twice this season. Obviously, this could be a 9-10 preview. Not a good look for the Lakers, the way they played against New Orleans tonight. They were down 16 in the second, or 14 in the second. Somehow got a lot worse from there. Another bad loss for the Lakers, too. I think we have some numbers. This is their second worst loss of the season, points-wise. You know, we've talked about some of these bad losses, so to speak. The Denver one, obviously still atop the leaderboard there. But this team, Fish, to steal your phrase, there's a lot of talent on this team, even without an Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
And look at these point spreads. Lost by 22, 24, 28, 28, and 37. Here we are on the doorstep of March, guys. This team is 6 games below 500. Nobody would have ever predicted that to happen.
That's not even throwing in some of those horrible losses where they had big leads.
Yeah.
To OKC and some other games.
Triple
so when
OT to
you,
Sacramento.
when you add those, the Sacramento game, there's been a lot of down nights where you say, where can they go from here? You can only go up. Fish, I want to bring you back to something you said at halftime. We were talking about heading into the third quarter, and they did not have a good first half. And I thought you hit it on the head. You said they need to come out and show that they want to be in this game, and we'll know in the third quarter. You know, like the Clipper game, you get right back in it, and we know we got ourselves a ball game. We can go from there. They gave up 44 points in the third.
But as Brez was finishing his thoughts, like when the entire organization goes onto the clock of LeBron's clock, right? Win a championship now. You saw the Lakers go through it in Kobe's last few years, where you're still trying to hold on to that we have to win a championship while we still have this player. But it starts requiring you to take shortcuts, and you're trying to buy growth, right? And shortcut the process of drafting the right players, developing those players, maintaining a level of continuity and consistency, you know, in that team and roster, so that then you can make those additions at the right time. So in my opinion, a lot of what we're also seeing is like this entire roster is new. They have not been through these experiences before together. What made the championship teams of the Lakers that we remember great were the years of disappointment. After James and the Lakers lost to the Rockets in the playoffs, what happened after that?
Won a couple in a row.
Right? After we got embarrassed by the Utah Jazz a couple of times in the playoffs, like what happened after that?
3 in a row.
So we get accustomed to like wanting it all right now, but in reality, a lot of these guys that are here now that are probably going to still be here next year, at least most likely LeBron, AD, Russ, you know, Reeves, etc. It's what they're going through now that then will what happens after that. And of course, we don't want to acknowledge that because we want to win a championship every year.
Yeah.
But you can't skip this part. You have to go through the bottom.
Can't
through
wave the magic wand.
No, you cannot. And that's what, like, this team has to hold together long enough to keep deciding, like, we want to work ourselves out of this together.
Yeah.
Right now, there's just not there. There's not enough time for them to feel like we're really together in this.
Remember when Andy Dufresne had to walk through a bunch of stuff to get to the beat Morgan Freeman?
He crawled, Gator. He crawled through.
And sometimes what you got to do.
That's what you got to do.
Crawl.
Great example. That is the best example. That's the kind of season they're having.
Yeah.
Yeah, schedule not doing them any favors either. 3 more games at crypto.com, including a Clipper home game. Then they go on the road for 13 of their last 19 games. So certainly no favors with what's awaiting in March and April as well, guys.
And the thing is, you know, I start to wonder if they were fully healthy, would it, I mean, I know we have some talented players that can score and they can, but when you don't play hard, you know, when you don't take care, like, you know, if you can't match the other team's effort, I don't know if having the full guys, everybody together, I know it'll help having AD and everybody back.
Yeah, but you're saying would it be wins?
If they're not playing hard, if they're not willing to go out and kick some butt and take names and numbers and have that mentality every night, you know, we've had guys on the floor together, Westbrook, AD, LeBron. We've had kind of a full squad, and they still have, like, you know, down 15 at halftime, or, you know, getting outscored and a lot of things. So it's a lot to do with, you know, how you want to play and how you can convince everybody to play together when they are fully healthy. So it's more than just getting everybody back. It's like they got to have a mindset. And like you said, a lot of new guys together. It may have taken longer to get to that with the injuries and the protocol and all that going on.
And that's your organizational and team culture, you know, which is hard to have when we only been together for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So when you have so many new personalities coming into your team and into your locker room, it's tough to have what James is saying. Like, you know, there's a standard that we have here. Well, when you don't have enough people that have like developed that standard themselves, it's hard to maintain it. So it's not impossible, but it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
And that's what you see night in and night out, right? Like it looks hard for them to be successful, and we're not used to seeing it be so difficult
Yeah.
to find that
The
success.
turnovers.
I mean, only
yeah.
15 assists, Brez.
Yeah.
The turnovers 23, 14 of those coming with LeBron and Russ. You look at Russ the last couple games, I believe he only has 2 assists total. I mean, the team is just struggling. And I think what comes as a surprise sometimes, and because I come into a game thinking it's going to go one way, is that the energy is just not being matched at all. And I think we all think these are kind of desperate times. I mean, desperate, but like, you're playing to get into a playoffs,
Yeah.
right? So you're expecting a different kind of energy on a Sunday night at home.
Right.
For sure. And Russ, his game was kind of a microcosm of the Lakers as a team. James, he had 1 assist, 7 turnovers, shot 5 for 15, a very uneven game for him. And he's kind of been hot and cold this season. I think we all agree to that, but definitely ice cold at this point for him. Coming off the break, you would think maybe a little bit of energy, a little bit of revitalization in his game, and Fish, it didn't show tonight.
No, but that energy, it can't come from the guy that's 38, 36, and 34.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, Trevor Reese is in starting lineup. He's 30,
Right.
he played with you.
Yeah, but Bron,
Yeah.
Melo, Russ, Trev.
Yeah.
So some of it is, not having developed in a sense like those other guys,
Yeah.
and some of those guys aren't here anymore as well. Like there are a number of different things. The Lakers have to just start with one thing, and that's being together in all of this.
Yeah.
If you lose the commitment to each other,
Fraction.
each guy in that locker room, each coach that's been there since training camp started,
Yeah.
if you lose that, that's when it's over.
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
As long as they hold on to that, they can figure some
You can
things
get
out.
through some things. Of course. You can be like Andy Dufresne and get through it. And find Morgan and all that money.
Yeah.
And I